A couple of days ago, I put out a video where I announced that I retired a while back, and I'm closing the studio. Instead of trying to figure out how to address all of your questions in that one video, I just asked you, what are your questions? So in this video, I'm going to answer some questions regarding the closure of the studio and what I'm doing moving forward as well. And like I said before, this is a drama-free video, and so there's really no talk at all of previous employees. Also, since I'm closing my studio and shooting at home, everything needs to change as a result of that. And so, for instance, in this video, I'm moving my gear pegboard downstairs into what used to be the schoolroom for my kids, which has moved to a much better spot for them, which is right next to outside. So in this video, I decided that I'll answer your questions as I set up my gear pegboard in my new studio. I've divided this video into 3 parts: the past, the present, and the future. So let's get into your questions about how we got here. Was there a point where you realized you wanted to do this, like a switch flipped, or did it just build over time? No, honestly, sometimes I wish there was a moment like that, like a moment where I knew exactly what I wanted and I had the courage to take it, but it just was more like a gradual awakening to what I wanted and where I felt like I needed to be. Can you give us an overall timeline, without intruding on your privacy, of course, of all the key events and big decisions that you've had to make over these past few years? The timeline's a bit fuzzy, that's how memories work, and this is a bit of a long answer, but it's on my heart to tell you, and just know that a lot of these decisions were made as a result of, some heavy processing and sad things, but it wasn't sad overall. First and foremost, it started early. We had already created some massive channels that were getting tons of views. The Matthias channel, what turned out to be Dope or Nope, was at its height. And if I'm not mistaken, we also had Battle Universe GG, and Matthias channel, Fail Time, and probably more. But truthfully, I was deeply unhappy. As I said in my testimony, I had everything the world had to offer: prosperity, popularity, possessions, people. But what I didn't have was peace. I didn't know that I had been building this empire in part to fill a God-shaped hole in my chest. So I turned to Christ, and he woke me up to the fact that I was wildly unhappy with pretty much everything the world had. And not because those things weren't good, or even that they were bad. It was just because I was putting my hope in them, like hoping that the next achievement would bring me peace, and it just never did. I didn't know what or why, but I knew that something had to change. So I started backing off. Hopefully that maybe if I automated things, I could have some time to heal. Started reducing how many videos that were uploaded, how many videos that I was in. And I also hired people to run channels, which turned out to be, at the time, a mistake. Because YouTube as a business was still so new, nobody had acquired skills to actually run channels like they have now. If they did, they were running their own channel, which is the basic problem with attempting to scale a YouTube business of any kind, as most YouTubers have discovered as well. Now that's like a clarified career, but at the time it just didn't exist. So what I did to help me step back actually made me step forward, because I then had to train all these people on top of what I was doing, which I discovered I couldn't do with so many channels at the same time. So I got myself stuck pretty good. Yeah. User error. I did this for a while before I realized I just couldn't anymore. Partly because my health was taking a turn, and partly because channels started to decline when I couldn't give them my attention. I had some talented people for sure, and I don't say this to undercut their capacity, but talented people still need a leader with clarity and vision. And mine had deteriorated. So slowly and surely, when it felt like a channel had run its course, it was time to sunset it. There were other situations in which channel managers left that had caused the channel to end before its time, but simply because the time and energy and cost of attempting to retrain a new employee and have the entire audience simultaneously adapt to new talent, I just didn't have it in me. There was a period of the 863 channel, probably one of the most fun and creatively fulfilling times I've had in the business. It felt like I was being creative again. Like it felt like the audience was enjoying the storytelling. It felt like it used to. Like what it was supposed to be. A relationship, not an entertainment machine conglomerate. But when I announced that 863 was fiction, though the views still came, the engagement and excitement for it just kind of fell off a bit. In the audience's eyes, suddenly it turned from a vlog with some staged moments to a show. Hey Siri, play my emotional cinematic music.
Emotional cinematic in your Apple Music library.
Because it's not Apple Music, it's Spotify, you suck! And we continued for a while, but I don't think it ever felt the same for anyone involved. Then after GG closed, there was some time where I had recovered a bit health-wise, but after all the shutdowns and downsizing, my confidence and clarity took a pretty big hit. I struggled a lot with discouragement and started identifying a lot with how all of the negative commenters saw me instead of who God says I was. So much so that I decided to replace myself as CEO. I searched for months and eventually hired my replacement. Super good dude, but in reality, it was my company and the vision for it still had to come from me. And then Tanner left, and I think that was a lot harder for me than I thought it would be. I really missed him and all the fun that we shared. I didn't really want to continue Dope or Nope without him, and so I took some time off. During that time, I did a few more experiments with content until I ultimately decided that I needed to take a break from it all entirely. During that time off, the Lord gave me some much needed perspective and clarity. I had become a leader and a manager, but I realized where I felt like I belonged was a creator, someone like doing the actual creation, not someone overseeing. But not only that, I'd been putting my identity in how the world saw me, rather than how God saw me. The world wants you to output, to perform, to achieve. It wants you to serve it, directly and indirectly. People's opinion of you, and also your opinion of yourself, and just how you stack up against everyone else. I felt trapped. And not everything I made ever was to achieve or to win people's approval. But nearly everything was, at the very least, touched by it. As a Christian, you learn pretty early that you shouldn't define yourself for how people see you. But the real lesson for me was when God showed me to not define myself as I see me. So here I am now, ready to make stories and videos again, ready to create again. Not because of what I want the world to give me or how I want to prove myself to myself or others, but because I'm made in the image of God, and He's a creator. So I will create. Money was never really an issue in the studio. I don't recall there ever being any financial trouble. Spellbound and High Five never failed. It just took me a long time to realize it wasn't really what I wanted or felt like I was meant to do. I think it took so long because there were so many amazing and redeeming parts of it, so many amazing and redeeming memories that I had, and so many people to enjoy it with. But at the end, I think it was the right decision because I'm so much more at peace now than I had ever been. And yet the future is even less certain for me, even though any certainty I had before was just an illusion. This is my most important question. How has your relationship with God changed and grown over the years of content creation? I would say it's changed a lot, and simultaneously, it hasn't changed one bit. I've grown in my understanding, and as a result, I feel closer and so much more at peace. But what gives me that peace is understanding that God's love for me hasn't changed a bit since I first came to Him, and nor will it ever. What do you miss the most? I think I miss the fun times. I just had a lot of fun together, making content with the team. There were tons of great moments that I shared with all of them, writing and shooting or just connecting on our passions. And it was cool that it was like a daily thing. Don't get me wrong, I hang out and see friends all the time, and I'm really fulfilled in that area of my life right now. But it is cool to be making things with people. That's super fun. What happened to all the stuff in the studio? Was it given away? So about a year ago, we let go of Bluebase. During that time, we had filled the entire warehouse of Redbase full of stuff we no longer needed. Instead of selling it, I decided to give it away to people who could use it. And it was really awesome to see people come through and just make use of all of the stuff that had just been sitting around doing nothing. So now we have another warehouse full of stuff that came from Redbase, filling that studio full of stuff I can no longer use, and I plan on doing the same thing, giving it away. From looking at your channels figuratively spread out on the table, there's such a wide variety and so much experimental aspects that not a lot of content creators do, let alone one whole group. Had you been trying to be eccentric as possible in hopes to avoid retirement as a conclusion, trying to find some other genre that made you happy? Honestly, the eccentricities of my interests are a bit of a sore spot with me. I wish I could just deep dive into one thing for the rest of my life, but it's just not who I am. I'm working on accepting that, as I'm interested in almost everything. And so as a result, welcome to Matt.mp4. You could say the one common pattern across all the content on this channel moving forward is that there is no common pattern. Why are some of your old videos unlisted or gone? some huge chunks are just gone between the previous to the next. I do this sometimes when I make experimental content, when I feel like the content didn't work or it failed or just didn't look good out in the real world like it did in my head. I just private it and unlist it because by definition, the experimental content just doesn't really fit with the rest. So it just kind of gives it a little bit more of a cohesive view. I was wondering, since you didn't make any videos, during that 1 year you took off, how did you make money? I was wondering if you decided to go on another direction, like writing or some other cool project that didn't relate to YouTube. While I have done that, that's not how I've been making money. Money has only ever been an issue on a per project basis. Like, in other words, some projects like 863 didn't make what they spent. But that's not to say that I or the studio was ever in any financial situation. I've tried to explain this many times over the course of shutting down channels. It's just fiscally foolish to continue projects that lose money. For instance, like if I had a habit of continuing projects that lost money, I would be in a financial situation and wouldn't have been able to take a break. The Lord has blessed me financially and has allowed me to take time off and reconsider what's important to me and my family. So long story short, all the videos that I've made over the past 10 years are still generating revenue enough to live off of comfortably. And that's a huge blessing. How are you? Genuinely. It's easy to fake it and say things are okay and pretend for YouTube, but are you doing okay? For sure, yeah, like I won't act like there weren't days where I just didn't even have the capacity to get on camera. There were, and there were quite a few of them, to be honest. And like I said, I struggled a lot over the past couple of years from discouragement and, not being in contact with my friends as much. I used to see them daily. But I do believe that the Lord has delivered me from all of those thought patterns, which is why I'm making this video today. I'm in a really good place, and my family's been in a really, really good place the past couple of years. Has the recent decisions in the past years made a huge difference on your day-to-day life, family, and spiritual? It's made a tremendous difference. Like I said, there's uncertainty in the future, but I'm at peace. I'm starting to work from home the past year, and it's been such a blessing. I get to see my kids and play with them like whenever I want. I don't have a fixed schedule. I'm able to dynamically be present with my family when they need me and just work when I need to work. There's been so many great moments I've shared with my family that I just couldn't have if I was stuck at a studio all day 9 to 5. And so that right there is just reason enough to close the studio. Just how much fulfillment I've gotten from just raising my little kids with my wife, who, by the way, are not little anymore. They're stinking huge. What the heck? Someone stop it. Someone stop the growing. So is Spellbound as a brand no longer a thing, given that you said you were closing down the studio? No, Spellbound is definitely still a thing, and I plan on doing things under it. The studio space won't be a thing, but they're definitely two separate things. What happened to we tell stories that inspire transformation? Especially as a Christian, do you feel a desire to not just make videos for yourself and what you want to do, but create something so impactful and radical that people can't help but be inspired and transformed when they watch and participate in it? Yeah, absolutely. But I think we also have to understand that when we're just living out our identity in Christ, that's going to happen automatically. We don't actually have to perform to really worry about making this really big impact in the world like I used to think. Now I know that huge impact is made in just the way I talk to someone, and just the way I act around my wife. I don't need to do something huge and magnificent to gain God's approval or really push the kingdom forward. God's got that covered, and he's going to use me. I just have to remember my place. I am a tool in his belt. Do you as a creative person feel that it's difficult to commit to something, whether it's a medium, a project, a direction, or a way of presenting yourself? Do you feel fragmented between many things you want to do, not feeling completely at home in any of them? I'm asking this because it's been my own experience. Yeah, definitely. I've definitely felt that struggle before because I used to think that my security came from that kind of consistency. Like my security and my hope came from just being consistent and doing the same thing over and over or getting really, really good at something. But now I know that's not where my security comes from. Now I know that whatever my interests are, God's going to do something with it. I might not be able to connect the dots forward, but I can look back and see what God's already done. And so it's just logical to assume he's going to do the same as I move forward. How can we as fans also share your faith and pray for you and those around you? I really appreciate that. I would appreciate prayers that God would bring me clarity and courage. Clarity to know the way forward and courage to commit to it. Now that you're making videos that you're passionate about instead of just viewer focused, what things are you passionate about? Oh man, where to start? I love storytelling in any capacity, in nearly any format, from comics to movies to gaming to YouTube, and honestly, hopefully, I invent some formats in the near future. But I love fiction, I love products, but I also love making things, and each one of those interests is like just a bucket of other genres and niches and interests. So for instance, like as far as products go, I've gotten into bookbinding lately, like no joke. I've been making my own journals and bookbinding. I'll share that progress with you soon. I actually plan on binding a book for my grandmother soon. So yeah, I also love design, like all things design, graphic design, product design, interior design. I've designed like so many of the sets that you've seen, and I've just really enjoyed that. I love software and all the intricacies there and modern UI and UX patterns. Like I literally just finished watching the Apple event and that was a blast. So yeah, this is just scratching the surface, but I'll spare you all of the rest. I could go on forever. I would like to know if you have any plans or desires to continue the Project 863-864 story. I know that many of us, myself included, fully enjoyed what you did in the past. So yes and no, I really don't have a desire to vlog again, but I do want to continue the story in other capacities. 863 project that I desire to pursue in the future is an alternative timeline where Syntech took over the world and then there was a massive fallout. I want to tell the story as like a Minecraft series called Sector 001. I have no idea when I can get to this, but it's something that I actually really want to do, hopefully soon, hopefully this year. So here's my question. Though you've mentioned you want to upload old school content, so we're going to see stuff like Ask Matts or parodies or music videos or casual music? Well, I may have given the wrong impression of what I was talking about previously. I'm not so sure that I have much desire to do sketches and parodies. Like, I feel like I've explored that. That's not to say that if I have a fun idea, I might make one. It's just to say that I'm not currently inspired to go in that direction. What I meant to say before was I want this channel to kind of be eclectic, just following my varied interests and journeys in making things. Are you still working on Battle Universe? Feels like the last update was forever ago. Yeah, it was, honestly. It's been years. I feel like I've been quote unquote working on this book for like half a decade. But yeah, there's not a week that goes by that I don't think about it, or at least solve some other problem, in the writing that comes to me. I've got a bit of a master plan before I write this book. It's kind of hard to explain, and I also really don't want to commit to anything publicly, but I very much still plan on writing the series. Let's just say this. I have a very particular vision for how I want to accomplish that, so I'm going to be working on developing software myself over the next couple of years that will enable that. And so that's what I'll say for now. But I might share my software journey as things go on. I've always been curious about your storytelling type videos. I know you've mentioned having different ideas for different stories, and I'm just wondering how you're planning on turning those ideas into videos. Honestly, through a variety of mediums, but right now just videos. Minecraft, for instance, is a great tool for me as it's such a good sandbox for this kind of stuff, but I love story in general as well, so you may just see me talking about it in different capacities like reviewing stories and maybe even making how-tos in my own way. Do you see this being just you and Sam for the foreseeable future, or do you look to expand it again at some point? Honestly, who knows? But if I expand it, it'll be completely different. Like I used to expand in order to accomplish an idea at speed, but now I want to do as much as I can in a proof of concept version and then have it just not make sense anymore to do it all by myself and for there to be a very clear need before I hire people and then spend time training and getting things right. So if I ever expand again, it will be very, very slowly. What is something you are most excited about filming in this new era? Next, I was thinking about making a video titled, What If the Acolyte Was Written Well? A step-by-step guide. Basically a humorous review, but also some good writing advice for whoever wants it. What's the future of Spellbound as a company? That, you and me both will have to wait and see. But I really do have some fun ideas. I just want to do them right. And to do that, it's just going to take time. But here's to a new start. So thank you very much for being with me at this new beginning. And I'm more excited than ever. But it's not really to see where it goes. I'm just excited to be here. I'll see you next time.